Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sara Lihz and I have some fun projects for you today. We're going to make 2 cards that make for super quick and easy card sets, which are great for adding to your stash or as gifts. So for this first one, we're going to use this slimline cover plate that I love so much. This one is the geometric twist, but they have a bunch of them. I'm going to put a few of them up on screen here. There's the Celtic twist and the woven, which are also top favorites of mine, but there's also the blossom. And then there's like a disco ball one. You guys, I'll try to link a bunch of them below in case you're interested. I just think it makes for a really quick and easy background. And I'm just adding a wash of color to create that gradient from dark to light. Then I'm going to add this onto some glitter paper. I sometimes have a hard time getting my cardstock to stick to glitter paper, especially the non-stick paper like this one. So I use Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. I find that that works best, though you do have to sort of press on it, just let it sit there for a little while, but it will hold just fine. You also don't have to put glue all over the back of it, right? I go around the edges and then a few dots in the middle, and that's enough. For a sentiment, I'm going to use this big Celebrate cut and foil. I love these. There's the sentiment die, the sentiment shadow die, and a hot foil plate for the sentiment. And so you get lots of mileage out of them, and they're huge. I just used the thanks in my last video, but there's also a hello, an Easter, and a joy, and I adore them. So I'm adding this one onto some vellum, and I've stacked it up a few times. I also like to put one more layer of cardstock on the back of that vellum, just to give it a little bit more shadow. But if you were in a hurry, you don't have to stack it up, right? This is just something that I love to do. I know that I'm giving this as a gift set to my mother-in-law, and so I like to make them extra fancy for her. It only takes a couple extra minutes to do that stacking. I like to put the glue on there and then I lay it down on top of it. If I don't have the shadow on there as well, I can then use my fingers to sort of wiggle that wet glue and make sure that everything lines up. That cover plate is 3 inches by 6 inches, and so I'm gluing it onto a card base that is a piece of 6 by 6 cardstock that I've folded in half, and it's really easy to just get that lined up. Then I will add glue onto the back of the Celebrate, and I'm going to put this kind of off center and at an angle because I want to leave room for an optional sub-sentiment later. But we'll make all the sub-sentiments at the same time after we finish our second card. I like Celebrate here as our primary greeting because it's so versatile and it fits for so many occasions. Plus it adds great shine on top of the glitter that's peeking out from behind that cover plate. For our second card, we're going to make a shape card. This is the Cupcake card die, and I love this. It's so super quick. I'm going to step it up a little bit, but if you choose not to do the ink blending, it still looks fabulous and it's really quick and easy. I'm just coming in with my blending brush and a medium ink on the sides to create that illusion of roundness and a little bit from the bottom. Since cupcakes tend to go out towards the top, there's usually a shadow towards that bottom. I'll put a little ink in the middle just to hit those debossed lines, and that's it. Then this is the cake on my cupcake, and I'm hitting it lightly and sporadically with some latte ink just to make it look like it's actually been in the oven. I cut my frosting from pink, but then again from white, and I just use my pencil to fill in the deboss detail, and I'm going to extend those lines. I just want to show you where I'm going to cut. I'm creating a stencil for myself. Some people can come in with markers and add a little bit of shading and it looks magical, but that's pushing outside of my skill range for markers. So I am just going to cut along that debossed line and then extend it, but I don't want ink all along it, only where the debossed line was. So I'm coming in from the side. Note to self, the pencil smears with dye ink. It actually turns out beautifully. I think it added some extra shadowing, but be aware of that if you're using a light ink and you don't want pencil to show up in there. You don't actually have to draw the pencil lines at all. So again, I started at the debossed part and followed the line and then just extended it, and I'll come in from the side, right? I only want that shading where the die left that impression and then a little bit higher. And I will continue to do this on either side, okay? So I'm just coming in from the side. When I get to the bottom, I can actually cut both of those pieces at the same time, and I just let them meet in the middle because again, I'm really only trying to get the ink on the sides, right? Coming up from the corners. If you wanted to make a bunch of pink frosted cupcakes, you could just cut them all and use that stencil one layer at a time through all of those sets of frosting. But sometimes I want lots of different colors of frosting on my cupcakes, which is what I'm doing here. So I am putting some packing tape on a piece of white cardstock, and then I'm going to run that die through my die cut machine. I cut the top off just like before, but I have 3 different colors of frosting, and I'm going to use the same stencil for all of them. That packing tape is going to act as a slick surface where I can just wipe that ink off, and I can go from my darkest to my lightest color without cross-contaminating any of my ink. So I did this just like before, going one layer at a time and cutting down my stencil along the way. And I tell you what, it wasn't until I was almost done that I realized there's an even easier way. The curve for that frosting is pretty much the same on every layer. So here, I actually have 2 layers of frosting that still need ink, but I'm just going to go ahead and cut those 2 pieces at the bottom. All I have is that tiny strip at the bottom of the frosting, right? Then I am going to glue this onto some scrap cardstock because that's not a lot to hold on to, and I need to be able to mask underneath that. I let it dry for a minute, and then I went up, and you can see in the middle on the right, there's a spot I haven't ink blended yet. Well, the curve is the same. You can just create this one mask. Again, I would probably use packing tape on that so that I can clean it off as I'm switching from color to color. But that's it. I can move from yellow to teal to purple and create a rainbow of frosting with beautiful ink blending. And it's really quick and easy. And then I'll just keep that mask in my packaging with the rest of the die set, and I can use that anytime that I want. To give this a little extra something, I sprayed it with some shimmer spritz. You wouldn't have to, totally optional. It's not picking up real well on camera, but I promise you it is very sparkly. This is the card base. It will fit through your standard die cutting machine just fine. And I'm going to tape it shut because it wants to pop open right now. And I'm going to glue my pieces down. You guys are going to see how quickly this comes together. There is a white border that goes all the way around the outside, but the other pieces nestle together. Okay, so when I go to put the cake on there, it fits like a puzzle piece right into the liner. Then the frosting will overlap the cupcake a little bit. So I'm just looking to create the same border around the frosting that I have on the bottoms and the sides of that cupcake liner. This is beautiful. You can add a candle. There's a die in the set. You can add a cherry, which is in there, the word wish, which is beautiful, and it has a shadow. But I'm going to use the same Celebrate I was using before. To be clear, this no longer fits in an A2 envelope, but I'm fine putting it in a 5x7 or an A6. Once again, I have stacked up my Celebrate. I have 1 layer of 65-pound gold foil cardstock, and then I have 3 layers of, it's about 100-pound craft cardstock. When layered behind gold, it's almost as if you cut all those layers from gold. When I go to add this to my cupcake, I'm again putting it at an angle, and I only put glue in the center, and it's so cute. You guys, this card can be used for so many things. But to help make it clear what occasion it's for, to make the card feel a little more special when we give it out, this is a stamp set that is incredible. It's called A Sentiment for Almost Everything, and it is exactly that. Retirement, Halloween, graduation, birthday, just because, New Year's, it's got all the things. And I just taped the entire stamp set inside of my Misty, and I'm gonna white heat emboss this on black. I did the same thing and gold heat embossed it on black, and I stamped black on white. I just made a handful of these. I also stamped it just onto some printer paper, and then I found the dies that go with the sentiments I want, and I taped them really securely in place, and I cut them out. Then I can lay that printer paper over top of my sheet where I have all my heat embossed sentiments, and they cut out perfectly and beautifully. There are so many bubble cut dies in the coordinating die set that this is also a really great way to keep track of which dies go with which sentiment. So in the end, I made 8 cards. For 2 of the Celebrates, I decorated them a little bit more. These supporting script sentiments also are great for sub-sentiments. And then I use the Pesky parameters for the flower and the heart from the circle shape card. It makes like a donut shape card, which is awesome on that other one. But really any small die cuts would work there. And then here are my sub-sentiments. I put 1/8" double-sided tape on the back of them so I can give them as a gift with the cards, and they can decide later which sentiment is best. I hope this inspires you, especially if you like to give card sets as gifts. I would love to know which of these 2 card styles is your favorite. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.